For the last 2 years in January, our church has done the 21 days of prayer, where we've kind of jumped on board and done 21 days of prayer leading up to Ash Wednesday, the beginning of Lent. And as we were down in Palmarcito this week, we just started talking about what are some unique ways that the churches can partner throughout the year in different connected ways and stuff. It's likely that I'm going to fly to Guatemala in January and be down there so that we can kick off the 21 days of prayer between both churches on the exact same day, work out the technology, genius, whatever we do, to try to figure out how to do it both on the same day at the same time and have kind of a live stream of what's going on and just different things like that. But then journeying through those 21 days of prayer alongside of our friends in Guatemala. So looking for unique opportunities and ways to do that. And as you saw, the dates are pretty set, but they're always tentative for a couple months here for the 8th to the 15th of next July. So begin praying about how God might reveal to you your involvement with Palmarcito. But to share just a little bit today, I've asked Aaron Gurgen, if he would, to join me up here. Aaron is, go ahead, woo, give Aaron a woo. Aaron's going to share with us just very briefly. I've asked him just to share a few things about his experience this last week and where he saw God at work. So thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, no problem. I thought I had 27 minutes.
You're good.
Out at 11,
you got
right?
whatever you want.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I had to write down a bunch of notes because public speaking is not my forte, but bear with me if you would. First of all, I'd just like to thank the Real Life team who went down there. Pastor Rich, Shelley, Ben and Hillary, Dave, Yoli, Steve, Jen, Lily, Maria Martinez, Maria Pedroza, and Marisol. It was just great to serve alongside you guys and just be the hands and feet of Jesus down there. And everyone did a great job representing the church. I'm not used to a microphone either.
You're good.
So, also, we had the Nazarene Compassionate Ministries team. Kelvin, who was our driver, he drove countless hours, taking us all over Guatemala, leaving his son and wife to come serve alongside us. Damaris Kellogg, she's the coordinator of everything while we were down there, making sure everything went smoothly. And Matt and Faye Wagner, who are two missionaries that are serving in Guatemala through the NCM, and they just helped out with the translating and leadership on different projects. So it was great serving with everyone. Then Pastor Rich was just asking me a couple questions about what I expected when I came to Palmarcito. This is my third year that I went down there. So a lot of things that I was expecting, was the difference in culture, understanding and respecting cultural differences. Shaking. All right, sorry. And I knew it was going to be a humbling experience just to witness and see how the other side of the world lives. It's truly amazing how generous and kind and loving these people are to people that they just meet, and just have the same common goal of serving God and bringing kingdom work here on earth. And, I knew there was going to be lots of discipleship, striving to be more like him, and a journey of personal spiritual growth, which I experienced as well. And just understanding that every act of service is a reflection of Christ's love. And there was no shortage of that there. Just every day we were out there, the women were cooking lunch for us, just serving us, and the leaders within the church, leading in the vocational Bible school programs that you saw, they just wanted to serve the community, wanted to serve the kids, and wanted everyone to know about Jesus Christ and the love that he has for us. Proverbs 11:24-25 said, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." And I felt that's something that they truly embraced was, serving others. And what surprised me the most was part of my feelings. I guess I didn't think I was going to get as emotional as I did when I was down there, but you develop these relationships with people, and on the last day we were worshiping God and singing, and we were singing in English and in Spanish. They had a couple songs going on, and I think it was last year, Pastor Neil came down with us, and I remember I wrote this down in my notes, and he was just like, this is a preview of heaven, just all voices being lifted up, singing God's praise, and it was truly amazing to witness and just, hit you right in the core. And then the biggest thing that stood out to me on my experience is just every year is just the youth in the church. Pastor Nestor and Ricardo, they do a great job of investing in the next generation. A lot of the leaders that you may have seen pictures of are in their early 20s, and they're investing into the children. And they started, going to that church when they were young. So that's cool to see. Shout out to Richard and his wife Jennifer, Luis and Carolina, Oscar and Lucy, Anderson, Christian, Elier, Pastor Nestor's brother Esdras and his wife Patty. They lead the worship there. So it's very family oriented too. And then his other brother lives about an hour away in Quetzaltenango.
Wilfredo.
Yeah, Wilfredo. And they come down every third Sunday, and he has a family of 3 kids that they all play contemporary worship music. They really had the place rocking on the last day. So it's just cool to see how much they invest into those young leaders, to invest the love of God into those kids. And, you could see it in those pictures and videos. And they're very grateful for this partnership. They're grateful for everyone in this building, and I guarantee they pray every day for all of us here. And that's just how much they love us. And then how did I see God work in my life during this trip? I've had a desire and hunger and fire for God to want to read my Bible and pray more. And that was reignited being down there. Pastor Rich put together a great devotional for all of us to go through, and it really lit a fire in me. And I read this quote: "No matter where you are in your walk with God, you can be confident that a desire for God is a desire from God. Lean into those desires and discover the joy of following where He leads your heart." And it was just a great time serving our friends and family down there. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. My words today are just going to be brief, just kind of to summarize a few things. But as you saw in the video, as you heard from Aaron, it was a great visit. It was a great trip. Strengthening the relationship between the church and the schools in Palmarcito has been a big part of this. Establishing sustainable food through some urban gardening. The garden boxes that you saw being done there were not at the church. They're actually at one of the local schools where the little children are. They wanted to have the church come and put garden boxes for vegetables in the churchyard or the schoolyard. Branching into neighboring communities, Las Marias, with children's activities and evangelism, building stronger community ties with governing officials. I met basically one of the new governing officials down in one of the partner neighborhoods down there, and totally excited for some of the things that they were doing. If you want to know what Pastor Ben's favorite project was, it was the crosswalk. So make sure that you ask him about painting the crosswalk in Las Marias. It was horrible. It was like, I didn't do any of it, but it was bad. Building stronger connections between the two churches and more. So it was an eventful week, but there's always a lingering question. That question is this issue, this word partnership, okay? So what is this partnership? What happens through a partnership between us and that church in Guatemala? What's the purpose? Now, obviously, the partnership with the church in Palmarcito, Guatemala affords us really an opportunity to have a front seat in ministry, effectiveness in kind of a cross-cultural context, very cross-cultural. So that gives us that opportunity to do that. But if you were to ask me what I think the most important thing that happens when it comes to a partnership like this between two churches, it's the word change. It's change. Every time that I return from Guatemala, I am changed. I'm also challenged. And it's not just a surface level challenge, but some of my core assumptions and beliefs are challenged and change. Now, as usually the case, on the Sunday that we're down there, we share communion together. And Pastor Nestor asked me if I would lead everybody in communion. And so as we were preparing and as I was kind of going through in my mind some of the things I felt like I needed to say, I was struck in a new way, and it had to do with something that I'd seen the day before. And they were 16 steps. 16 steps. So a couple of years ago, particularly during the pandemic, God put on the hearts of the church in Palmarcito a community about 5 minutes down the road called Las Marias. And I think we shared a little bit about them last year. Las Marias. It's a community that has more need than Palmarcito. It's a community that has a lot of need. And so during the pandemic, the church in Palmarcito kind of adopted this little community, Las Marias. So as a result of that, now there is a new church in the early stages of being born in Las Marias. Sure. The driving force of planting a new church is just compassion. They care about these people. They want to serve these people. They love these people. They want these people to experience the love of God. And so this just happened. It just happened. Okay. Now it's an official mission point. So it's almost kind of like in the United States, sometimes there's churches that have multiple campuses. This is a campus of the Palmarcito Church. It's in Las Marias. Okay. Now, where the church is located in Las Marias is not what you would expect. And again, I think I shared a little bit about this last year, but the picture that you see on the left is the facility, and I use quotes for a reason. Part of it is some kind of an overhang over it, but it's dirt. The rest of the yard does not have an overhang. It's all outside. It's all open air. What you can't see there is 5 large adult turkeys that are in a pen who are very loud and vocal, and other animals wandering around. This is out there. Okay, this is just how they're doing it. They're outgrowing that space. Okay, they're just doing an amazing job there. The picture on the right is not real clear. It's kind of hard to figure out exactly what that is. But right there's the edge of a ravine. You can kind of see the water in the background, the 2 pipes that go that direction. What you really can't see from that picture is just the landslide of trash. That is the garbage dump for Las Marias. And it's 16 steps away from the sign for the church. I did it twice because I'm a little OCD. It's 16 steps. Every day, people in Las Marias, they walk past the entrance to the church 16 steps to dump their trash, to take out their trash. 16 steps between blessing and basura, trash. So the church, listen closely, has put itself willingly into a place of brokenness. And they've sacrificed themselves to put themselves in that place. We witnessed when we were down there a group of people reaching the people in society that society would discard. Most of them being children, unwanted children, and single mothers. What's amazing too is the people who served people the most were children and single mothers. those forgotten. They're not needed in society. Instead, what the church does is they put themselves in a place to intercept them and gather with them. Not just provide a place for them, but gather with them. They are their people. They gave them family. They reassure them that they're important. They are someone that is worth sacrificing for, worth giving for, worth changing for, worth going 16 steps for. They are worth that. And so, I ask questions. That's just what I do. So the first question is, as you just innocently walk into that situation, why next to a dump? I mean, there's got to be a better location. I mean, think about it. If I stood up here and said, you know what, guys, I think that God is calling us to relocate our facility. We're going to leave this property. There's a property, in fact, they're just going to give it to us, but it is right next to where all these trucks pull in every day and dump all of the trash, but it's right there. How many of you would be super excited about that and think that's a wise decision? Okay. So why not a better location? Why not something that's a little bit more visible, or at least more attractive, a cleaner property at least? Somewhere that's a little bit more protected, it's not really the most savory place, something that's a little bit safer, something more sensible, right? It's just not sensible to put your church next to the dump. It's just not sensible, but here's the deal. The gospel of Jesus of Nazareth is anything but sensible. It's not even clean. The gospel is not clean. It's gritty, and it's beautiful. It's sweaty, and it's sweet. It's bloody, and it's full. It's light and life where there's darkness and death. That's the gospel. It's costly, but it's also free. In Luke 9:23, Jesus is letting his disciples in on the fact that if you are going to follow him, it's actually going to cost you something. Compassion costs you, giving costs you, sacrifice costs you, following costs you something. The cost that Jesus paid was his body and his blood. That's the gospel. You and I are set free. We're given an eternal hope today. We're given healing today because of the gospel of Jesus Christ, bought with his body and his blood. That's our hope today. The cost is his body and blood. He will suffer and die. This is what he's telling them. And then he throws in this statement in Luke chapter 9, verse 23. He says this, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." I just want you to look at those words for a moment. I want you to think about the world that we live in, the country that we live in, the community that we live in. If you want to be a disciple of Jesus, Jesus is saying, the first thing you have to do is deny yourself. Then you have to pick up a cross. Then you follow him. And you have to do it every day. That's what I was thinking about as I was waiting for my turn in the service to administer communion. Telling the disciples his body would be broken. His blood would be spilled out. It's not sensible. It doesn't make any sense. It's not clean. It's not safe, but it's beautiful. It's sweet. It's full. It's light. It's life. It's everything that we need. And now, here's what I was thinking. We are his body. So his body 2,000 years ago, broken, the bread, spilled out, the wine. These things, do this in remembrance of me. My body will be broken for you. My blood will be poured out for you. So now we're his body. You're his body. I'm his body. We, the church, are the body of Jesus Christ right now, in the flesh. And he says, as we deny ourselves and pick up a cross and follow. So I ask questions. And I ask questions about myself, okay? But then I ask questions about us as a church. Our friends, our brothers and sisters in Christ down in Guatemala, they remind me all the time of what it looks like when the body of Jesus Christ is broken and poured out. Is broken and poured out the way Jesus was broken and poured out for us. We've picked up some idea somewhere along the line that being broken and spilled out, being broken and poured out, is not what our number one ambition should be. And I'm not negating the fact that we all need wholeness and we need help, and I hope you're here today because you want to be encouraged. But as your pastor, in the context of the world that we live in today, I feel compelled to tell you that the greatest example of the move of God in any church today has got to be when that church is willing to be broken and poured out selflessly for the sake of the kingdom. What does that look like here? In places like Las Marias, it looks like 16 steps. What does it look like for you? What does it look like to be broken and poured out as his body? Something gritty and beautiful and sweaty and sweet and bloody and full. What does that look like for us as a church? What are our 16 steps? What are your 16 steps? And to take them, are we willing to be broken and poured out? We do. We live in a Christian culture that's enamored with rights and ease and preferences and lights and polish and programs and all of it. Do I, Rich Doring, avoid being broken and spilled and poured out when the Savior tells me it is exactly what happens to his body? Am I rejecting being his body by not allowing him to show me what it means to be broken and spilled out for others? It's what happens to his body. And again, maybe the greatest evidence of the move of God in any church is when that church is broken and poured out. Because it communicates to a lost and dying world that we're not all here because of ourselves. We're here because a king compels us to be like him, full of grace and truth and love and sweat and blood and mercy and all of it, selflessly pouring ourselves out for others. And as I close, I just want you to know, when you see this in action, and there's a reason that I'm just compelled this morning, is because when you see that happening, when you see a church doing those things, when you see a church embodying what that looks like, you can't unsee it. You can't unfeel it. And when you see it, there's something about it, you just put your finger on it, you're just like, that's it. That is it. Right there. Why have I missed it? That's it. May we as a church be broken and spilled out. Broken and spilled out. And as I close, I want to share with you about a couple that I think models this, at least for me, in so many ways. There's a couple in Guatemala right now that model this profoundly. Many of you did meet Roger and Damaris Kellogg. They were here about a year and a half ago. They were in the United States doing a tour, and we had the opportunity to have them here, and she spoke, and it was a great time. Damaris and Roger, they're an incredible couple that have literally sacrificed everything at this point to be used to do what God is asking them to do in Guatemala. If it was not for Damaris, these trips that we take would not happen. They would not happen. Damaris is so instrumental, and I don't know that I've met very many people with such a pure heart and pure intent and high integrity as Damaris Kellogg. They represent what it looks like to be broken and spilled out in ways that we can't imagine. Normally, we take down just little honorariums and stuff, but as we were coming back, I thought to myself, you know what? Our church knows how to bless people. And so, if it's okay with you, we're going to bless Damaris and Roger Kellogg. And we're going to receive an offering today and next Sunday. And we're going to send that to them, and I'm going to convince them to use it for themselves a little bit. They've got a couple girls in college and one getting ready to get married probably at some point, and all kinds of different stuff. There's just all kinds of things taking place. And so we're going to bless them, these people who just give of themselves in radical, radical ways that challenge me at the core of who I am. And so here's what we're going to do. Ben is going to come up. He's going to lead us in just kind of a final song. I want to give you some specific instructions. The first is this. There's an offering envelope in some of the seats. There's some in the back as well. And what we're going to do is, if you want to give to that offering, that's fine. Write a check, make it out to the church, all that kind of different stuff. Just write somewhere on that envelope, love. That way we know it's going to go to them, and that way we can account for it. We've also created a drop-down on the app, in the giving section of the app, if that's how you give. And I would encourage you to download the app and take advantage of that. But you can drop it down and you'll see it as one of the options. You can do that. We're going to leave this open until next Sunday afternoon. That way that gives you an opportunity to pray about what God might have you do. But I'm going to pray, and Ben is going to lead us in this last song. Before he does that and closes everything out, one last thing. These people at that church are so amazing. It kills them that they're not here with you. You need to understand that. I've tried 3 times to be able to get Pastor Nestor into this country, and our country just won't let him come, just because that's just how it works. And so he told me he's going to try again this next year, but they so desperately want to worship with you. It's just really an interesting and a profound thing, and they don't have much, but here's what they did. This year they did something a little different. Here's a little Bible. It's this little keychain Bible that they had somebody make, and I don't know how they did this, but they printed out all these little tiny pictures of the church, and there's little tiny pictures of the church on the Bible, and in it is 1 Corinthians 12:12. You can look that up and read it yourself. 1 Corinthians 12:12. They love you, even though you've never met them. There's not enough of these for every single person in the church to have one, but every household maybe can have one. I'm going to put this one back in the basket. We get enough from them already. But this is for anybody who has not been able to go on the trip. And if you want to take one of these, there's a couple of ushers will be out in the foyer as you leave today. You can grab one of these for your family as you leave while supplies last. How's that? While supplies last. But let me pray for us, and I just want to thank you for being a great church. Father, we just serve you. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be invited into what you do. Not what we do, but what you do. Help us to continue to give ourselves over to it. And Father, in this question of what does it look like to be broken? What does it look like to be poured out? I pray today. Help us to see that through the eyes of Jesus, the one that was broken and poured out for us.